welcome to the tutorial for the bow art kit. This thing is going to be so cute. I'm so excited. I've been wanting to do a bow for quite a while. So let's go ahead and get started. So obviously if you're seeing this, you purchased one of the art kits, which looks similar to this, but only it has the bow image fully painted on there. And each kit should include the paint that you're going to need, which will come on like a little acrylic paper sheet. And then it's going to have a paper palette, which looks like this. And you're going to use the shiny side for the palette, not the matte side. So we'll have a sheet, like a half sheet of paper palette. It's going to include the brush or brushes needed. As you can see in this art kit, it's got two. And then there's going to be one watercolor page that looks like this, which has the outline. And then there's going to be a blank one, same size or smaller, that is for like doing practice on with the brush. So you can kind of get familiar with, you know, how much pressure to use, angles of the brush or like the tip of the brush. So that way you feel a little more confident making those brush strokes. And then it should also have a basics of watercolor sheet. So it just kind of explains, you know, how to use the water, how you work from light to dark on there. And then it should have a short bio and then the link obviously to the tutorial. So you're going to want to need a piece of paper towel. And if you have painter's tape, you can use that, or you can use this kind of tape to tape down the borders of your piece. With this one, because it kind of goes to the top and almost the bottom, I'm not exactly going to give it a border. I'm not going to tape it down. It does help if you're worried about the paper buckling as it gets wet, which is totally normal. I guess I could tape the sides down, but it will leave a border along the sides. But most of the time I do like to tape around a border, at least like half the width of an inch tape, so half an inch around a piece. But because the sketch goes pretty much the whole way to the top, it won't really work. So I guess I'll just tape down the sides about half an inch. And like I said, you don't have to tape it down, but you can. Just depends on what you're comfortable with. And then you're also going to need a jar of water. I use a vase and a mason jar of water. You're going to need 2 jars of water. One is to clean your brush, and then one is for clean water. So that way you're using clean water to apply on your paper if you need it during the process. Just depends on what we're painting. Let's see, but it doesn't hurt to have it just in case. And then if you have a spray bottle of water, it's good to have that handy too, just in case you need to like re-wet your paper. There we go. Okay, and since, like I said, it goes to the top, I'm not going to use the tape on the bottom, but this should help kind of hold it down from buckling. So I have a spray bottle of water just in case as well. I'm trying to think. And then I'm going to be using just this piece of plastic for my palette today. That way I'm not using the paper sheets. All right, I'm excited. You guys ready for this? All right, let's see. Where do we want to begin? So with watercolor, you generally work the lightest colors and most transparent colors up to the darkest colors. So we are going to work with the lightest colors, meaning we're going to water down our color heavily so that it's barely got a color to it, the pigment. So there's also some areas that we're going to keep white for the brights, which we won't put any color on, or we can just the lightest color at first. There's also this really fun product called drawing gum that you can get. It is in my Amazon store, I believe, but it's liquid Frisket. So basically, I'll show you guys an example. Well, maybe not because I don't have that brush, but you just take this and apply it where you want to keep the whitest whites on your paintings. Let it dry. It doesn't take very long, maybe like 5 minutes. And then you can paint around, do your painting, and then when you're done, you can just rub it off, and it'll be like kind of stringy and rubbery, but it comes off completely, and then it's left with the white underneath. So this is a really fun medium supply to use. if you are into painting and watercolor. So I do use that quite a bit. But for this one, I don't necessarily need to use it, but it might help to actually show you guys where the widest whites are, because it goes on blue, but it dries clear. Let's see, I don't know where my Frisket brush is. Let's see. So just for an example, like I said, you don't have to have this, but it might help like showing where the widest whites are going to be on this piece, so we can kind of avoid those spots. So I'm actually going to take some of the Frisket, and you will want to wash your brush after this. Okay, and they also make Frisket pens too. I do have one of those. So along here, along the top, there is some white space. So I'm just going to do a thin line and kind of fan it out just a bit toward the top there. So it's kind of like a triangle, but pointy at this end. And then along the top here, it's white as well. So I'm just going to apply the Frisket where the widest whites are on this piece. And like I said, guys, you don't need the Frisket. You can just avoid painting those areas. But I figured if I painted them with this, it would actually kind of show you guys where it's at, so you don't accidentally get the paint on it. So the next spot would be right here along this edge. So I'm only doing the Frisket just so you guys can see where the widest whites are going to go, so you can avoid it. Oops, I keep hitting the cord. I moved my camera this time because the last recording was no bueno. It was over my shoulder, just was a horrible angle. I have to refilm that one. All right, and then the next area is right along here. Okay. And it kind of connects right there. So hopefully you guys can see that. So this area right here under that dark line is where the Frisket's going to go. I'm just going to kind of add a little bit more. Just kind of make sure I got a good amount on there to cover that area. And I'll go back over this one just a little bit. There we go. Let's see. I think there's one more spot that we could do. Will be this area right here. So the areas that I'm putting the Frisket again are going to be the brightest whites, meaning the white of the paper is going to be your brightest white, which is the fun part about watercolor. But once you paint over that, even with a light color, there's like really no getting that bright back. Okay, so I'm gonna do this spot too. All right. Any other area that is white? I think everything else is pretty pale pink. I guess we could do a little bit just along this edge right here. So you guys can see that. Just in that little section right here. It's like maybe a centimeter and a half. Okay. That looks good as far as the whitest white. So I'm going to stick my brush in some water over here for now. So that way when I'm done, I can go clean my brushes at the sink and get the Frisket off the brush. So keep that in water until you can go out, wash it off. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of make sure these are dry. They're still a little tacky, and it will be a little tacky. Just kind of let it dry for the most part before you go painting over it. So for now, we're going to go ahead and start on the background, just to kind of let that Frisket dry up. So I'm actually going to get my brush wet, and I'm just going to wet the background around our piece for now. And you don't have to be shy with the water. You don't have to tap it off or anything. Just dip it in the water and get it on the paper. And this is going to help the water spread easily across the page. And wherever you put the water is where your color is going to go. So if you accidentally get it in the ribbon, it will bleed into the ribbon. So do your best to make sure it stays outside of the ribbon for now. And then I'm gonna make sure I got enough up here because the color will go where there's water. And hopefully you guys can see this okay. I'm kind of going with natural lighting at the moment because my light ring is, I can't really use it at the moment with the way I got this filming set up. So if I need to add more light, I can go grab a different one, but it won't be from above. Okay. And I'm trying to hurry a little bit with this water because it will dry pretty quickly. And the more pressure you push down on your brush, the flatter it will get and the more space it will cover. So if you just want to get that corner, you're just going to touch lightly with the tip of it. But if you fan it out, you'll cover more area. And you're still probably going to have to re-wet the page as we go around this. And that's okay. Because if it's completely dry, you'll have a really solid color and it won't really be as forgiving. So just add in some water here. Just trying to move a little quicker because it is going to dry up pretty fast. And again, make sure you avoid the bow. But your color is only going to go where the water is for this part. Yes, I just switched hands. I'm ambidextrous, so it's like sometimes it just comes in handy with certain spaces on paintings. So, all right, hopefully this side is still damp. Good. And I have not put out any of my colors yet, so there's that. Okay, so for the first initial background color, I know this is going to be weird, but we're totally going to mix some Opus Pink with white. So I'm going to get some of this prepared over here on my palette. And I'm going to go ahead and just kind of spray my watercolors just to kind of activate them. All right, so I'm going to put some white down over here. That might be kind of hard to see until I add some of the Opus Pink. So clean my brush real quick in between colors. And then I'm going to grab, get some more water, some Opus Pink. So I barely touched it because this stuff is very, very pigmented. And we're just going to make kind of like a pink like this, like a baby pink almost, mixing the white and the pink. So hopefully you can see that. And then I'm just going to brush it on the background. I'm going to keep adding more water to my brush too, so it'll keep it a lighter color. And it's okay if you get over this secondary line because that's actually going to be the shadow for this piece for the ribbon. So we're just going to kind of go around the background, kind of give this bow a place to rest. There we go. So as you guys can see, this is a very faint pink. So where we put the water around the bow is where we're putting it. And I'm going to go ahead and add some more white And I'm going to pick up a little bit more of the Opus Pink. Woo, that made it really, really dark. And just to lighten it up, just add some more water. Or you can add some more white too, just depends on, yeah, I might have to add a little bit more white, which is totally fine. There we go. And then the more water you add, the lighter it gets as well. You see some of the water already dried on this side, so I may go back in with some water just to kind of dampen it back up. With the paper buckling, I'm gonna have to move some of that water down so it doesn't go over the bow. There we go. And you can move it around. Add some more water in here just to keep the color flowing. Oh my gosh, this is turning out so cute. Loving it. And see how damp it is? You can always just touch your color and drop it in and spread it around. So cool. I think I'm going to add a little bit more to this side because this side was pretty light, which is fine. But just to kind of match the sides over there. And you don't have to cover every little speck of area. You can definitely leave some areas in the background a little lighter, less pigment if you want. Add some more water, get some more white, just to lighten that up a little bit. So yeah, there we go. Pretty, totally digging this. Wonder if I should do a blue one too. That would be fun. All right, and like I said, some of this water did dry up on me, so I can always go back in with some more water. Kind of reactivate that space on the paper. That way, if you touch it with the paint, it doesn't go into the bow. So if you go like this and even just tap it in after you applied some water, you'll see how it kind of spreads out only where the water is. That is a helpful little trick when doing like tighter, smaller areas like this. So it will just rest where you put the water. You can kind of move some of the pigment around. There we go. Very cool. Okay. And I know darn well this area is probably dry, so I'm just gonna kind of reactivate this up here. And hopefully I didn't just get it on the bow. Okay. So I'm just gonna tap in some more color. There we go. I'm gonna pick up some more white to blend in here. I'm gonna get some more water, thin it out more. There we go. Okay, so that area is looking good. And I'm gonna add a little bit more water up here because kind of went over. There we go. A little bit. Oh, I have a feeling this bow is gonna be super cute. Okay, just trying to re-wet this area. sure if I want that top section, but that's okay. I won't stress about it. All right. This is looking super pretty so far. And it's only the background. That's the cool part. I like doing the background sometimes like this because it just kind of brings your subject forward already. Gives it a place to live. Oh my gosh, how freaking cute. Okay. So now I'm going to go ahead and clean my brush off. Kind of recalibrate here what I'm doing. Okay. So, which area do we want to do next? Now, sometimes I do like to go in and do some of the darkest of the dark areas, just because it like allows me to work on other areas to let that dry. But we'll go ahead and just do what we're doing. Okay, so we're going to darken up and kind of give some shadow to the outside of the bow. So you see how this is like the lightest pink right here, and there's like a mid pink and then a dark pink. We're going to go ahead and take we're going to mix these two together, the mid and the dark. So just get your brush wet and then kind of blend both of those, because we want this kind of pink where it's not the lightest light, but it would be like the next darkest. So if you need to, add more water to make it lighter, but we're going to use this as the shadow. So we're going to stay in this line. Oh, and if you're like me and don't wait patiently for the background to dry, this is easy. Just get your brush wet, clean it off, dry it, your brush, and then go along where it's bleeding, and it will vacuum up the color. So I guess I should have waited for the background to dry. I thought it would have been dry by now, but whoops. So as you can see, it kind of took up what was still wet. So I guess we'll wait on the edges because the outside is, oh, it is still a little damp. Okay. Guess we'll just start working on the inside of the bow then. Okay, let's take this super light pink, and we want this to be light, like barely even pink. And we are going to add a little bit more white to this so that it is barely pink. So I don't know if you guys can even see that, hopefully. So we are going to do this section right here of the bow, and we're going to go up a little bit on this little jaggedy edge, and then up to this line right here with this color, and then go straight down, and this little tiny bit that's right here, we're going to do that as well. So this is going to be the lightest pink because we have to work light to dark. And then eventually, if we need to go back in and darken up around the bow again, we totally can. Okay, so we got the lightest pink that we can in there. All right, and then this side has a little bit of a peachy color, so we'll wait on this side. Another light area is on the edge of this bow, so we're going to just stick it on the edge of there, and then we're going to take it down this edge as well. And then it looks like across the top of this one right here, very thin, just using the very tip of the brush and across. And then this area is all pretty light. So from this line right here, we're going to use kind of the side of the brush and make sweeping motions upward. And then we're going to lift it up all the way to the point so that you're just getting the point right there. There we go. Let's see, where's some more? looks like along here, along the frisket, the side, we're just going to put that light with just the tip of the brush, so barely touching the paper. And then we're going to follow this line right here with just the tip and kind of fan it up. And with the side, you're going to kind of lay it flat and you're going to sweep it over to the edge right there. So up with the tip and then kind of lay it flattish on the side and sweep it over. All right. Just trying to see if there's any more really light areas. Looks like this area right here has it really light, so we're going to do just the edge, just the tip. Okay, and then kind of like this spot right here. You don't want to darken up too quick. I'm going to kind of go over that edge a little bit again. All right. There's a little spot right here, just the tip, like a little square in that area. And then we can also do a little bit up this way. So you're just going to use the tip, kind of lay it down a little bit so it fans out and pick it up. I know that's probably really, really faint. Don't worry, we're going to start darkening things up. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and try, yeah, the edge is dry. So we're going to go back into that mixture that we did with like the medium darkness and the darkest dark right there. And we're going to put in the shadow. Which is just along the edge. When I'm painting, I like to work out on the outside in. Not always, I guess it just depends on what I'm painting, but a lot of the time that's kind of how I paint. All right, and then we're not gonna go all the way in on this middle section right here, but just like about 1 centimeter away from the bow. And we're gonna kind of keep it in the middle, if that makes sense, because we're gonna line it up right here. So it's in between this line and this line. We're going to keep it in the middle and about 1 centimeter away from the center of the bow. And then let's see, does it darken up a little bit? We can go ahead and do this side's shadow. So hopefully you guys can see that line. And it kind of goes down this way. There we go. Add some more water, kind of activate this. So we're using like a medium darkness. I also see a shadow that's under here on this line. So we're going to go ahead and do this area. Remember, you can just kind of drop in some of that color if you need to. Can't tell if that's thunder outside or it's just farmer equipment. And then we can do the outside of this one, which kind of goes down and starts up here, comes down. It kind of goes to a point and it drags back down this way. And if you have to, you can pick up some more pigment to darken it up just a tad. Hopefully you guys can see that. There we go. So now it's starting to get some form to it because we're putting in some of the shadows. And then this little area down here also has a shadow, and it goes straight across right there. I'm going to use just the tip of the paper towel. There you go. So just kind of darken that up a little bit. And then along this edge, we're just using the tip, dragging it down, and the more you drag it down, as it gets a little wider, you put a little bit more pressure down, and it will spread it out. This shadow kind of comes to a point on the lower right side. Make some more color. Looks like I need to make some more. I'm going to grab a little bit more Opus Pink, add that with the water and what's there to keep it not so dark. And just kind of touch it to release some of that paint. And you can spread out that color where you already got it wet. There you go, so you guys can see the shadow. Alright, let's see, where else can I put this? Is this dry? Okay, so if that's dry, you can also follow this line right here with just the tip of the paintbrush to kind of give some more form here. Kind of goes down, and then where it splits right here and does that Y, just the tip down. There we go. So we're starting to give it more form. Try to see where else we can add some of this. Did we cover most of the shadows? It also looks like this area right here in this little spot is also the same value as the shadows on the outside. So we're going to go ahead and fill that in. So we kind of move around the piece. We see where the same values are, where you could use the same color that's already on your brush. Notice that is a little darker, and it also has a little bit more of a peach to it, like a peach color, and a little bit more magenta. So we're going to take just a tiny little bit of the magenta rose, like barely touch it, and then we're going to take a little bit of the Hansa yellow, mix that in, and it will be like a peachy color. I'm going to add some water to that to water it down so you can see it better. There you go. See how it kind of makes a peachy orangey color. And this still needs to be a little more on the pink side, so I'm going to add a little bit of the magenta. Woo! Barely touch it, guys, because look what I just did. I'm going to water that down quite a bit. There we go. So you want it to be kind of like this peachy maroon, not maroon, but like peachy magenta kind of color. And then if you have too much on there, too much water, you can always just kind of touch your paper towel. But I'm going to go over that and just kind of dab that in there because it's still wet. And you can just kind of drag the color around. There we go. All right, let's see where we see that color, if anywhere else. So as I'm looking down on this section of the bow right here, it is a little more peachy. So I'm going to add some more yellow, just a little bit to this, and see how it made it more of a peachy color compared to that more rose color. And if you need to get some excess off, you can always tap your palette too. But we are going to follow this line right here. And we are going to go down and keep it just on the edge of this spot right here. So it's going to be in this area and down. So I'm going to tap in some more color just to darken it just a bit. All right, do I see that anywhere else? Not that color specifically. So actually, I kind of do. I see it on this side. So we are also going to take that same peachy color. It's already on our brush. We're going to use the tip of the brush and just kind of line that. We're going to go down this way. We're going to follow this little line right here. And we're going to go back into the crease right there. It does kind of go in a little bit. And it does cover this line right here. Okay. Ooh, it's looking good. Looking good. All right, now I'm just kind of peeking to see if that's in any other area. I kind of actually see this a little bit along this edge. So we're going to do just the edge right here. Maybe about a centimeter and a half down. And then also going to, I see it kind of make a line like this across to this line right here. And then I also see it make a little dot connected to that little triangle up here. Okay. And that same color I also see right here. So we're just going to color just the bottom portion of this piece of the bow. Let's see where else. So this side I notice of the ribbon has more peachy tones in it too. So I'm going to add a little bit more water to what's left of that peachy color. And I'm going to start up here and follow that line down to about here. And then we're going to cross over to the center and kind of go down to a point. We're going to go up a little bit and up into this little nook and down a little bit. And then I'm going to fill in this area. It is a little darker right here, so I'm just going to tap in some color. So it does make it a little darker right here. Okay. Now I see it barely on this side, but I'm going to add more water just to make it like the lightest of the peachy color and just kind of fill in this section to the left side of the half. There we go. And barely anything right here. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to rinse my brush. So as you guys can tell, we've kind of moved around a lot on this piece, but like I said, when you have a specific color on your brush, it's good to move around the piece and see where you see that specific color so that you're not wasting the paint on your brush, but you know, if you already have it out, you might as well use it, right? All right, and I think we'll start with the next darkest color, which again, I guess would actually be kind of this, it was more of the rose, the light rose color that still had some of the yellow Hansa in it. So we will go back to that. And we'll do this section right here. So we're not going to go to this line right here, but we're going to go close to it, but we're going to just sweep up, press down and sweep up. So you're barely touching it and you're just sweeping up. So you're only using that small portion of your brush to just kind of sweep the color up. Now the reason that we're doing this is because the ribbon goes up like that texturally, and you want to go in the direction that you see the texture going when you're painting, because it helps with the form with what you're painting. And that definitely goes for like acrylic and oil too. So you want to go with the direction, the form of what you're painting. There's also this really thin line right there, so use just the tip. And this color is so pretty. I also see that color down here. I kind of feel like it's a little darker, so I'm going to touch that and then add it. So barely touch that pile of pink to what you've already been working on to kind of darken this area up. So we're going to go to that line that you see right here, go up, and this actually kind of connects up here, and this line as well kind of connects, goes over, and then I'm going to water that down a little bit so you can just go along the edge and sweep up. Getting little nooks here. And we're gonna paint along the edge. We don't have to get in that shadow, so. And we're gonna go up on this side. There we go. Okay. Now this side is a different pink, so we might have to mix a different color for over here. This same color though that we're using, we're going to put over here, and we're going to go down. But we're going to stop right about here. And actually, I take that back. We're going to go all the way to the line. And then we're going to keep it in this like triangle area. And then we're also going to put it up here as well. I'm going to get more of that. And we're going to do this triangle area too. Okay, because that's going to be a good base color before we get darker in that area. I also see that. I'm going to kind of make a new pile here with the Hansa yellow, the Opus pink, and magenta rose. Let me add some more water so you guys can see the color that we're mixing. Okay, so that's kind of dark, so I'm going to keep adding some water in a fresh pile to lighten it up. There we go. Because I also see that a little bit. Actually, there's a lot of water. I'm going to touch my paper towel here. This line has that. Oh, wait. It's actually a line up here that I didn't sketch in. My bad. It's okay because that one's going to be darker anyway, so we'll be able to cover it up. So we're just going to make like a sideways L right there. You guys can see that. And then looks like I missed some of the baby pink up in here and along this edge. So we'll go ahead and clean our brush and make up some of that baby pink. Actually, I kind of want to do, yeah, let's mix up some of that baby pink. We are going to grab white and just a touch of that Opus pink. And I'm going to add some more white to that. More water. So you guys can see how really, really faint pink that is. And I do see, we'll do this side first, and then we're going to add just a touch of the color that we mixed that made the peachy, barely any of that, into this baby pink. It's more of like a white with a touch of pink for this side. So we're going to start off over here. We're going to go ahead and make a line this, down this way. So kind of following this angle. And then up here, we're going to kind of leave some white space. So hopefully you guys can see that. So this area right here is going to be white. So we're not going to add anything there. And then I'm going to go all the way to that corner. And we're going to go to this line right here. We're also going to do this side. So we're going to follow, not go all the way to the line, but kind of make a new line right there. And then we're just going to pop in some of this pink as well. And then along just the very, very edge. Okay. And we did put, let's see, we did put white there, I believe. We're also going to go ahead and drag that down this way. And then I'm going to do this area right here, because this also has a very, very light pink in it. And down this way. And this area. But there's a straight edge right here. So kind of goes around that border. There we go. Then we also have some of that pink right here. We're going to leave a little space to not touch that orange. All right. It's a lot of back and forth with this. And then we're going to do like the edge along this part of the bow. And the edge right here. And across the top there. And right here. I'm going to do, actually I'm going to add a little bit of that peachy color into that white and pink mixture so that we can get this area. And it goes all the way across the top. And don't worry about painting over the frisket because it's already dry. And then we're going to paint up right here. We're going to kind of paint over and down. See, where else do I see the peachy? Kind of see it right here. And this could be a little bit more peachy right in this area. And then where else do I see that? Can make this do a line like right here. And then a line right here. And go across and up like this. Alright, this same pink, oh my gosh, look how light that is. Goodness. It doesn't even look like we put anything. That's incredible. Okay. And we're going to kind of go in here and add a little bit more of that peachy tone. Kind of darken it up just a little bit. Because we're darkening the value a little bit at a time. And we're just going to go down here. And then I also see that same value here and down. And a little bit right here and down. And don't worry, we will be painting over these layers, layer by layer by layer. And then I also see that peachy tone right here. Might have to get some more on my brush. that little spot that we left open, it's more of a peachy tone right there. And so this area right here is kind of peachy too. So this little tiny triangle right here above where we made that L, I'm going to darken that just a tad. There we go. You guys can see it. All right, what else? I almost feel like there's a touch of violet in here. So I actually should, let me figure out which color I want to use for adding just a little bit of violet. There is a cyan-indigo violet. Let's see if that will create the color I'm looking for. I'm going to mix it with this peachy pink that we made. Let's see if it, oh yeah, that's good. Okay, so we are going to put that for this darker area right here. But we're only going to about right there with this color. Very nice. And then we're going to also darken up with that same color this little spot in the ribbon that we had before. And then one more little spot. And this line as well. There we go. All right, I'm just going to pick that color up again just to see if that's anywhere else on here. Because it is right here, but it is lighter. So it's a little more pink. So I'm going to pick up just a tiny touch of the Opus pink to make it a little more pink, and then add water to make sure it is super thin and light. So we're going to go ahead and do this area. And using a lot of colors is going to help your piece be more dynamic. It definitely gives it more life when you are getting a different color every time. And honestly, you can paint this any colors you want as long as you match the values. So that one is not quite dark enough, so I think I'm going to go in with a little bit more of that, touch more of the pink. That way it shows up a little better. There we go. Okay. And then love it. It's looking so cute. Okay. Oh, I noticed there's some of that peachy color. Okay, so I'm gonna take some of that peachy color. Make sure it's like watered down. But it is right here. So we're gonna put just a touch of that peach. Oh, and right here. Why not that whole little color or corner? Perfect. All right, I'm also going to put in the darkest dark right here in this edge. So that would be like magenta rose. See how vivid that is? Oh my goodness, that is so pretty. And then we're going to put in some of the Opus pink and mix those together. And don't really mix any water with it because it'll make it lighter. So we're actually just going to do this little tiny section with just the tip of the brush. And we're going to go up and kind of sweep it down. just that spot right there. And then I do notice I will get some water just to kind of thin that out a little bit. I also notice that it does kind of go right here. Darn little gnat. Okay, so we're just going to use just the tip of that. And then I also see that color, which is more peachy, so I'm going to have to rinse my brush and add some of that Hansa yellow into some of that right here. But I also need it to be darker. So, oh my gosh, this gnat. I'm going to add some more of that mixture of the magenta rose and the opus pink and kind of dab off a little water so it doesn't drip on my page. But we're going to follow this line down this way. And then it's also on this secondary line, but we'll wait. We'll do this with the same color right along this edge. That part is wet. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna get my brush clean. I'm gonna dry it off and I'm just gonna vacuum that right up. Whoops. So I'm gonna clean my brush again, dry it off the best I can, and we're just gonna vacuum that up. Okay, so that section wasn't completely dry yet to add that super dark. So that's okay. We'll just wait. We'll just move on to another spot. Oh, that's funny. All right, now this line, is this, yeah, that side's still kind of damp. Ooh, all right. I guess we'll do this dark area under here, which is kind of a peachy, but it's more opus with peach. So I'm going to add that. Oh my gosh, what is wrong with my freaking tablet is being dumb. 1 second. Oh my gosh, how do I get the brightness? This is where I need my kids because they... There we go. Oh my gosh. Anyway, my tablet's being lame-o. Let me see if I can fix it. Because it has the image I'm painting from. There we go. It was like super dark. I don't know why it does that. Okay. So where was I? Oh yes. Adding opus pink. I also see some darker violet in this edge. So I'm actually going to get some of the Theo Indigo Violet and add that in there. I might add a touch more to really get that, oof, so pretty. Get it where I want it. Okay, so that goes up this edge right here. And then it goes down. Very lightly. Oh no, it's still wet. Okay, just kidding. We're going to do it on this side. Till we get to the shadow line. And then it's going to come up all the way over here. Oh my goodness, that's so pretty. I love that color. And then it's literally just at this little corner right here. So just little dots. All right, so since I can't do that edge, oh, it should be dry down here. Okay, now it's dry. So we're only going to come to about here with that border of the dark color. And you want to use just the tip. And if you need to practice making lines, use your practice sheet so that you know how much pressure you're going to be using to lay down that line. So don't be afraid to practice first before you go in, and like that line was a little fat, but that's okay. Totally good. All right, let's see. Where else do I see this color? I also see that color up here along the edge of where that frisket is, but it's only like a centimeter. There we go. And then I also see it not at the very tip of this part of the bow, if you guys can see that, but a little bit down, like right there. So we're just gonna add a little of that dark going this way. Not to the point right here on this corner, but like half a centimeter up. And then we're gonna go down a little bit and do it right here. And it kind of stops about there. And then underneath the frisket on this side, there's a little bit of that dark color, and right here. And then along this edge, but it is like a really rich color, so I'm going to add a little bit more of that magenta in there to kind of darken it up a little bit more to do this edge. Hopefully you guys can see. I'll try to hold my brush a little to the side, and that kind of goes to the bottom. So halfway up this side, not in the shadow, like it's in between the shadow and the bow itself. So right there. And then I also see some of this going down this side, but it's lighter. So it's not as dark. I mean, it is kind of dark on this little edge right here. So we'll do just a little bit right there. Oh, actually, this edge too. But it doesn't go all the way to the corner. Let's see, this edge. A little bit right here. A little bit right there. Oh, it's really dark up here. I didn't even notice that. So along here. And then it has a little tiny break right there. And then it starts again. And goes up to the corner. Okay. Now this one, like I said, is a little more red than it is violet. So I'll have to get that more of a peachy reddish color for that dark. I'm going to add some water to this, the existing color we were just working with, to lighten it up some, because I also see another spot that we could stick this, and it's right along the edge of where we put the frisket, or this white area right there. It kind of goes up just a little bit. Okay. That same color that we're working with, and it's more peachy up there. So we are going to throw some yellow in that. Holy moly, that was a lot of yellow. Okay, I'm just going to kind of mix it all real quick to kind of give it like a richer orange, but mostly the pink with the violet, if that makes sense. So we're going to add some more. Let me get some water in there. And it definitely could use some more of that the indigo violet, so I'm going to put some of that in there for the color we're trying to get here. Okay, so definitely more on the violet magenta side. I'm going to add some water because I got it to the right color. There we go. And it's kind of dark, so I'm going to add some more water. Okay. I think I might add just a little bit more of the opus to that. There we go. And then, let's see, this section of the bow, we're going to do, we haven't really worked this area yet, kind of hadn't got to that dark value. Okay, I'm just going to kind of tap in that color, and it kind of goes like this. It kind of leaves like a lighter area right here, so I'm going to kind of leave that open. And then also see, let's see, this comes down here. This line we're going to kind of make up right here. And it's going to kind of come down, and it's going to go across this line and up. So it's giving, oh, in this line right here, giving a little bit more form with this darker color. And that color is also over here. So we're going to put that. And then we're going to kind of brush it up a little bit. And over. So like, okay. That same color, we can do this little V that's right here. And then this line coming down. And it would be a lighter version for, so we're going to add a little bit more water to make it a little lighter, but we're going to follow this line right here and come down. And then I'm going to do some like little staircase jagged lines. Kind of swoop it over. All right, just trying to see if there's anywhere else we can put that. That is a pretty dark value. Now over here is not so dark. It's about the same color, but it's not so dark. So I'm gonna really water this down if I can. So with the same color, but we're gonna try to stick in between these lines that are sketched on here. And go down this way. It's gonna go over all the way to the bow center. And there is some wider areas that we're going to be watching out for here soon. So kind of go up around. There we go. And then down this way. Up a little bit right there. And then up right here. And then it kind of goes down into the center right there. Okay. So this side is more of a pink. So we're going to add just a touch of that little mixture of the opus pink and the magenta rose. And go ahead and do this area. And down. Okay. There we go. Try to see if I see any more of that color. I actually do. Okay, so right here, in this area is where we're going to be working. So right here. And we're just going to drag it down. There we go. Just trying to see if there's any other area. We could probably add that right here to this side. this side's actually a little darker, so we're gonna go right along here. And this is more of a lighter pink. So we can kind of clean our brush a little bit and then go back in with some of that pink, add a little white. And that also has a little bit of the Theo Indigo Violet mixed in here with that Opus Pink and the Magenta Rose. So it's kind of a little more on the violet side, but that's okay. Actually works with what we're trying to do for this spot. Okay. And then I don't really see that. Oh, up here is a little more. Just trying to center myself with the piece. So it has a little bit of that darkness right there. Okay. And then maybe some lines. A little bit darker right here. Okay. I'm going to clean my brush again. I'm trying to see what all I can see on this. Okay. So this one, I think we could probably darken up a little bit too. And then we need to get more in this area, probably darken that up a little bit. And we'll start with some Opus Pink. And then we'll get some white mixed into that. So it's like a baby pink again. Where do we want to work this? And I actually might throw in a little bit of that yellow to make it more peachy. There we go. Definitely more peachy. And then I'm going to kind of darken up that L again and kind of swoop up because it definitely is a very peachy corner right here. And then I see a little bit of that peach color right about here, so we'll go ahead and put some of that in right there. And I see some lines right there. I'm going to add just a little bit of that darker pink mixture. And we're going to just lightly touch the edge here. Kind of brush it up and over a little bit. Oops, I got something on my paper. Okay. There we go. So we're still working on building the form. Watercolor takes quite a bit of time. I'm going to put some right here. But just be patient. Alright, so I also see a little bit darker peachy color. Just a little bit. In this area right here. So I'm just going to kind of go back over where we stuck that light peach earlier. But it's good to build your values up. You don't want to go too dark too fast because you really can't come back from that once you go too dark. So this also has like a line right here. Kind of goes down. So we're going to kind of put in that darker line to give more form. And then we're going to darken this up just a little bit. Now this area right here needs to be darkened up. And then we haven't really touched this area, so we do need to darken this area up, and it's kind of a darker peachy color, kind of like this. Add some water to lighten that up. And then I'm just going to go along here. And it's kind of like a V in that corner. So we're just going to darken that. I'm trying to move around and just kind of see where else that could go. If it needs it. Could do like a little swoop of that right here. A little bit down this way. And along this edge. These little lines. Okay, I'm going to clean my brush. Whoops, I just got some water on there. Let's clean it up a little bit. Alright, just trying to kind of calculate what we've done already. This area is kind of like a more of a hot pink, so I'm just going to get some of the Opus pink and water that down pretty good. But more of like a hotter pink this time. And then I'm just going to kind of fill this area a little bit. And this is kind of a hot pink, so we're going to add some on this and along the edge. And same with right here. We're going to kind of darken that up with the hot pink, or the Opus pink. That edge. That Opus pink is so pretty. And then we're going to add a line here and kind of darken this top area. And along this. And this one could be a little darker, so I'm going to go in with some more of the Opus pink on this shadow. Okay. Definitely want to make sure you have enough value to give it the form. Okay, so I just kind of touched some of this more like reddish color, and I'm going to redo that line. It needed to be darker. This line needs to be darker. So this line. And this is definitely a little more red. This line. Okay. Rinse that out. Now I'm noticing these colors are pretty faded under here, so we're going to go ahead and darken those up. And that had the Theo Indigo Violet, the Magenta Rose, and some of the Opus Pink in it. But I'm going to kind of water it down though, because I don't want it to be too dark. So we're just going to kind of redo this to make sure it has the darker value. Perfect. And then do I see that color anywhere else? I actually do. We're going to do the lines right here, that little V, and then across the top, a little down this way, and a little bit right here. And then kind of outline a little bit where we put that color up here. And there's a dark line right there. And I'm going to water this down significantly because it kind of goes down this whole section here. And it also does over here. So we're going to add a touch of that. There we go. Okay. Now I haven't really worked a whole lot in this section, but we'll get there. We will get there. Okay, so this side is more a opus pink with just barely a touch of some of that yellow that's been mixed up over here. And even that looks a little dark, but actually I'm going to kind of mix in some of this like reddish color because this right here needs to be darker. Where it comes up and meets in that corner and along that edge. Because it just wasn't quite dark enough. Actually, I could have brought that color down. Oh goodness. We're going to bring that down into this V because it is darker. I did not make it dark enough. Okay. I also see some of these lines over here that I haven't gotten to, so we're going to take some of this color that's mixed up over here with the Theo Indigo Violet, the Magenta Rose, and Opus Pink. And it's pretty watered down, so it's not like too dark. But we need to throw in these lines, kind of connect here. There we go. And then I might actually water that down yet again, because this section needs to be more of a violet. So it's okay if it touches the stuff that's already wet. There we go. And I realize the Frisket is kind of like distracting, like it's kind of thrown off some of the colors, but I promise once we rub it away, it'll be perfect. So in the shadow that's right here on this side, I really feel like I haven't really worked on this side or the center, so I should do that. I'm gonna do, it's very dark opus pink, so I'm just gonna get straight color for that, and then barely touch into that mixture, and then with just the tip we're gonna go through this shaded area all the way up to where we made that dot earlier. So this is very dark right here. Pretty. I'm actually going to do some of that over here, I think, too, because I like how much that opus pink just brings it to life. Alright, and then I'm going to toss in some of that down here on this edge. And then I also see that along this edge, all the way to that corner, and then up this way. And this little line right there, and across the top, just a little bit. And that should be good. Might actually throw some right here too, just to kind of help darken that up a little bit. And this line, oops, still a little wet right there. So I'm gonna dry that and then kind of vacuum that edge. There we go. All right, now I'm going to see what area we can work next. Plus, you never know what's still kind of wet. So we're actually going to do a lighter version of this color back up in here like we had before. So I'm going to kind of take that similar color that had the Theo Indigo Violet mixed in with the magenta and the Opus Pink and kind of revisit that just to darken it up a little bit more. There we go. Probably easier to see too. Okay, now this section is kind of an orange pink that we're going to be working on next. So we're going to do the same thing with some of that Hansa yellow and the Opus Pink that we had right here with a tiny bit of magenta. And I'm going to throw in a little bit of white with that. There we go. Okay. And then we're just going to kind of work the bow section, the center, just a little bit. And kind of goes over this way. That is a really pretty color. And a little bit right there. I'm just trying to see where else I might see that color. Because the further up this side is it's more pink with purples. So I'm really not seeing that anywhere else that it needs to go. Maybe we could put some right here. Maybe a little bit down this way. And maybe just a little bit right there. Okay. And this little triangle needs to, or this little area under that triangle needs to be a little darker, so we're going to put that same color right there. Alright, I think it's good. Well, hold on. Do some of the edge along this. Maybe a little around it. There we go. Oh, and probably some in here, because we still need to go in and finish that area too. Alright, so I need to get some lighter pink in there, so some of the Opus Pink with some white, a little bit of this peachier tone, and we're going to just sweep that up this way. Yeah, got a little crazy there. Dab that, there we go. So just in this area up. Yeah, that was like the perfect color too. Yeah, and then we're going to add a little bit more right here. And along that edge. Just tip a little over that way. Okay. Actually, I could have taken that same color. I'm going to go and pick that back up and go just underneath of where the frisket is and along the edge right there. And a little bit right here. A little down there. A little on this line under the frisket. And a little right here. And some of this area. And I'm going to take some of the Opus Pink that has a little bit of that orange in it. And I'm going to kind of go around the edge of this one and kind of drag it in a little bit. There we go. And I still feel like this little nook is not dark enough, so we're going to take some of that dark color. And we're going to go along this line again, just to keep working it till it's the darkness that we need. That's looking a lot better. So you basically just work in stages to bring out the form. So just make sure you work from light to dark. You do the most watered down, lightest colors first. So that way the form comes together. All right, and then just gotta see what areas I could pop in some of this peachy tone, but very light pink at the same time. I'm gonna just kind of brush some of that in to kind of help with the form of this. There we go. And then I think I'm actually going to pop some of that up here because we did lose some of that color. It's kind of, it was so light. So we're going to just give it a little bit more. Beautiful. And then we're going to put some up here too. I'm going to bring that over. And then this area does have a lot of peachy tones in it, which I really like. A little bit down here to kind of connect it. And then a little bit more down there. Okay. I think we're close to being done. Just need to add a little bit more of this pink down in this area right here. Because you only want the whitest white where it's supposed to be. So I'm going to drag a little bit of that pink down into that peachy tone we just put. And then kind of darken it up right there a little bit. Just get a little bit more. So there is some Opus Pink, but very light down here. I think we're going to be working in this area a little bit at a time, just to not darken it up too fast. So we're going to put some of the light pink, let that dry. And then this stays white. Just kind of checking around the piece real quick to see where I need to add. Add a little bit darker pink. So I'm just going to pick up a little bit of the Opus Pink that had a little bit of the magenta rose. And make a swoop down here. Just kind of darken it up some. And along that side. Dude, I swear I keep looking toward the window because it looks like somebody's peeking in. I don't know if the chickens got out or what. I'm going to kind of darken it up along this edge of the frisket. this edge right here, this little triangle, we're gonna darken that up. Okay. I swear I'm seeing things. Okay, and then we're gonna take some of this dark color right here, and we're gonna do just the outline of the center of the bow. And a little bit right there. And just like a little bit right here. That way it gives more form for the center too. This needs to be darkened up some. So I'm just going to pop some of that in there. And a little bit on the bottom line. And it needs darker right here. That bottom line. There. We are almost done. Actually, I'm going to pick up some more of that again because this V needs to be darker too. There we go. I'm going to make this darker up into there a little bit. Okay. And along this edge. And then it needs to be a little more pink. So I'm going to take a little bit of this dark, a little bit of the Opus pink, water it down, and then just kind of put some lines right here, right there. Kind of connect it with that darker color, and then take it down to blend in with that. There we go. And I might take some of this just a little bit and kind of flick it up. And flick it up right there. Kind of blend it right here. That is looking good. And I also see some of that darker color in here, so we're just going to kind of darken that up. Grab a touch of this and just do a couple little dots in here while it's still wet with that darker color, because it will spread out and look a little more natural. Okay, so I'm just kind of checking some of the values here real quick, kind of scan over it just to make sure that we've covered everything and that we're meant to cover, and make sure that, oh, I missed a spot. So this would be more pink, so we're going to use some of the Opus pink with just a touch of that dark, the darker mixture over here, and then water it down, but it'll be more on the Opus pink side. Touch that, and then there we go. We needed to have more pink right there. And then, so I'm just kind of making my way around with my eyes to see if this needs a little more pink. The whole area needs a little more pink. There we go. And this line needs to be a little more defined with that pink. Down here. This area. That one looks good. Don't have to touch that. Oh man, looks like I got some right there. Oh, and it's still wet. I can vacuum that up. So rinse your brush really, really well, dry it off completely, and it should vacuum up that color. Perfect. Okay, I didn't realize it was bleeding out into the background. All right, so I'm just gonna kind of look around. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of the peachy pink, water that down quite a bit, and go right there, because I kind of missed that spot and right there. Alright, looks like there's a little bit of a peach line that comes down this way that I need to emphasize. Alright, then I did notice this section right here needs some of that dark as well. So just doesn't have to be as dark as the other ones were, but a little more watered down for the form. So, oh, and then the edge along this one is like a opus pink, pretty dark opus pink. So we're gonna just do the outline of this side of the ribbon with the opus pink, and it does go, there we go. I'm gonna add some more on my brush, and just with the tip. Again, if you need to practice on your little sheet over here, you totally can. All right, so I'm just gonna go around again with my eye and make sure I got every area that I needed to. And like I said, the background, guys, you could do anything. You could add some more to it if you want, but you don't have to. All right, and I think I might, I don't know, I kind of like the level of the shadows, but we could darken that up a little bit. Kind of do want to darken up this side just a little. So just go back in with the opus pink. There we go. And even this one, darken that up. It is a lot darker on this shadow on this side. And maybe just a little bit down here. And a little bit down here. A little bit on this edge of that shadow. It's looking good. I do notice too that there is a bit of a shadow right here, so I'm just going to kind of go up and connect that. And it does come down a little bit on this side. There we go. That looks pretty good. Fill in that spot. Looks like I missed it. Okay, so I'm just kind of, again, going around checking to see what areas I may have missed. We can kind of fill in that area. This area a little bit. Actually looks pretty good as far as values. So I'm just kind of tracing along with my brush as I'm looking at the source to make sure. This area, it could darken up a little bit, so I'm just going to barely get that with some of that darker color we mixed up there. And then follow the V. So every time you add to it, it will get darker and darker. There we go. That looks better for that. And I do notice that I don't have it dark enough on this line. So I'm going to take some of that dark color again and just kind of go over it to darken it up. So we're going to kind of just darken up this whole line. That way we really get that form. Okay. I'm going to kind of take one more look over. I think that actually looks pretty good. Could take some of that same color and go along the edge down here, which is very, very light of that dark color. Just kind of separate it from the background. We can do that up here too. It's more of like a mauve color at this point because it's been so watered down, but at least it will help break that up between that and the background. There we go. Around the edges, we could probably do this edge with that same color. And here, yeah, we'll do that on this edge too, because it is a very light mauve-y color, but it will separate it from the background. And we'll just kind of go this side so that it has that form. But that darkest dark is pretty watered down now, so that's working out perfectly. Okay. All right, I think we can call it good. So now we have to wait for all that to dry, make sure it's totally dry everywhere before we stick it in the water, before we remove the frisket, because I don't want to like move any of the paint around. So this area is dry, so now we're going to rub away the frisket if you used frisket. If not, then you would have left those white areas white. I'm gonna wipe that away. Just dry. It's like kind of like playing with like rubber cement. That's what the texture feels like. And then I'm gonna rub that away. There we go. So now the white of the paper is the whitest whites. Although this one, because I pencil sketched it on here, looks like it smeared a little bit, so I could go in with some like white paint, just plain white, and cover that. And just to kind of put back what was supposed to be there. But because the pencil kind of bled into it, kind of made the page dirty. Okay. There we go. So pretty. So that is the bow tutorial. I hope you guys had fun painting along. I know sometimes it can be a little stressful if you're a beginner, but definitely give yourself some grace. Watercolor is an intense medium. It is honestly one of the hardest mediums to get to learn and understand. But the more and more you practice, the better you will get. So don't be hard on yourself and enjoy the process. These are meant to be relaxing, the art kits. So yeah, thank you guys for painting along with me, and hopefully I will see you on the next one. And also, you can sign your piece if you would like. And I like to personally date and sign mine. These pieces I do on the back. If it was like an image right here and there was nothing down here, I would sign it at the bottom. But yeah, because it's a full-on piece, I would probably just sign the back of this one. But if you can, you could always initial it like down there maybe. But it's all on preference on how you want to do it. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next one.